This is City Focus, the podcast from the League of Oregon Cities, where we explore the issues that matter to cities across Oregon.
Welcome to City Focus. In this episode, we'll talk with Dayton Mayor and Oregon Mayors Association President Beth Wytoski about the upcoming LOC OMA Joint Spring Symposium. The City of Dayton, like other cities in Oregon, faced unprecedented challenges last year. Mayor Wytoski shares stories about how her city employed unique and creative ways to deal with the many challenges her community faced, and how they'll use what they learned in 2020 to start planning for spring and summer 2021. Mayor Wytoski, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. This is a first of its kind thing that we're doing here. It's heavily, for anyone who's taken a look at the agenda online, it is basically emergency management, emergency management, emergency management. So that's the focus of this, which I think is fantastic, especially given the year that we've had. And we'll kind of talk about that a little later on in the episode. But for right now, can you let our listeners and members know what they might expect from this symposium and why they should go?
So we're really hoping to gather a lot of strategies for preparation and then kind of go through lessons learned from all the responses. Unfortunately, as everybody's well aware, not just Oregon, but we've all experienced a really crazy year that included many disasters, in addition to the fact that we also were in the middle of a global pandemic. So right. We have cities who have declared emergencies for the first time, who've walked through that process of declaring a local emergency, who've figured out what they're eligible for through a gubernatorial or a presidential declaration, who've figured out how to reallocate resources and how much budget flexibility they have, all kinds of things from the pandemic. But additionally, we have cities who have been majorly affected by floods, wildfires, other disasters. So we're hoping that we can kind of put all of these crazy experiences that people have been through in this last year together into a really comprehensive, how do you prepare for and how do you respond to an emergency?
Yeah, I'm imagining, lessons learned on some of those things. I'm actually looking at the agenda for, how to deal with locusts and rain of frogs, because I don't know what's coming next. But some of the items on here are interesting, how to communicate with constituents, emergency preparedness, lessons learned, prevent, prepare, respond. We have a keynote speaker. It's kind of hitting all the gamut. CERT. Personally, I'm a member of my local CERT. I think CERT is extremely important. Any one of these things jumped out at you as, you may want to definitely show up at one of those breakout sessions?
Yeah, I'm actually a speaker in the communications one. We've got some speakers from small cities and medium cities as well, because communication becomes a huge obstacle during an emergency, especially when traditional things go down or are simply too delayed. Yeah. And again, on one of the other emergencies, we had a large area that was impacted by power outages and ice storms. Yeah. Getting communication out becomes really critical, and several cities developed some really quick responsive strategies that hopefully other cities can prepare to use in a more proactive way instead of having to just react to an emergency all of a sudden. I think that communication one is going to be really, really important. And I also think that stuff related to the federal classes and the CERT and just those preparatory measures that leaders can and should be taking, I think is also really critical.
Yeah, you're talking, with your citizenry getting, in a small town. Dayton is a smaller town than where I'm from in Salem. So the needs are probably, they may be the same, but they're scaled down a little bit, and communicating over a large city versus a smaller city. I know up in the canyon with the fires, it was literally running door to door, knocking on doors, warning people, telling them to get out. And when the ice storm, many people obviously lost power. A lot of them lost cell and internet. So there's a lot of challenges where regular lines of communication just get ticked off and they're not available anymore. So I would imagine lessons learned in that are going to be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've formerly had a significant reliance on these printed publications that we know respond too slowly in the event of an emergency. So, of course, everything is shifted to technology. But when people can't provide updates on websites and things like that as a result of power outage, our city has an app. And I think, coming up with multiple ways of communicating really becomes kind of the trick. but I don't need to give away that whole session.
Right. I saved something for the symposium. So, yeah, again, looking at this, there's something I think for everybody, for every size of city, down to the smallest up to the biggest, because I think everybody going through this, how many, we had COVID, we had fires, we had ice. So I'm like waiting for the locusts and the
floods in Northeast Oregon. Yep.
So there's been a little bit of everything. We're coming into spring now. So, who knows what's going to be coming with spring. So this, speaking of spring, this is the Spring Symposium. When is it?
It's May 7th.
So it's an all day, it's on Zoom. It's not an in-person, unfortunately, but it is.
Zoom. Yep. It's a virtual conference. It's all day, one day. So we're going to have, everything from these breakout sessions to a couple of speakers, including our keynote, the Mayor of Astoria. So we'll have several different ways to interact with the symposium as well. I think that a lot of us look forward to that networking opportunity to share our stories and hear others so that we can better prepare for the next event.
Yeah, I think that probably the most critical aspect, I think, of this, everybody getting together and sharing how they did best practices and doing that. Well, I know the League of Oregon Cities, we have information, everything you register out there for that. We've got the agenda is out there. I think some more information is going to be coming about our keynote. Like you said, the Mayor of Astoria, who has a very fascinating life story that I'm very interested to hear. But I want to pivot a little bit because you're a mayor of a small city. You've gone through this year and a half like everybody else has. What have been some of your experiences in the city of Dayton, challenges that you've risen to, things that you with hindsight, wish you could do better? Just how's your year and a half been?
Yeah, that's such a big question. I think, I think the city of Dayton actually did a lot really well. We have a very competent staff, fortunately, who work really hard and are very capable of kind of pivoting. And we have spent the last couple of years really building some proactive plans. So again, we were really fortunate that when something happened, we didn't have to be purely reactive, which is part of the value of the symposium, is getting other cities to that point, including small cities. So, some things that we really focused on, certainly that communication aspect, but not just in traditional means. We have 2 Spanish-speaking counselors. And so one thing that we did at the start of the pandemic was I recorded some messages on videos to share through social media. And one of my counselors came with me and repeated the same message in Spanish. So we tried to share everything English and Spanish, including in videos. And I'm hopeful that was helpful for our residents, because I think, there are so many challenges with communication anyway, and getting to people on multiple platforms becomes really important, but also in multiple languages. So that was something that we had to try to figure out really quickly how to get that out. We had the year before in 2019, we had purchased an app that we had specifically designed for the city. So we were able to push out notifications of, when there were testing opportunities, when there were infections, changing regulations for things like our city hall, our library, and our parks. Later during the ice storm, we were able to use that same app to notify, I opened the high school as a warming shelter and a showering facility, and some things like that. So we can get those messages out really quickly, and really get people, when they're just wondering. Since most people have a cell phone, most people can get that app. It's free. And then when other things are down, when the power's out, when there's floods and fire and no power and everything else, a lot of folks still have a charged cell phone in their pocket. And so we found that app to be the most reliable way to continue that communication, and probably something that I was very pleased that we did really well. Another thing that lots of cities did well, but that I'd love to share about Dayton, is the economic development piece. We developed pretty early. I think Dayton actually might have been the second city in the state to declare a local state of emergency. And we did so to really create some flexibility for procurement and budget. And so right away, we started shifting funds to our food bank so that they could deliver toilet paper and shelf-stable goods to low-income folks. And then we also developed, our first program was called Urban, and it was a utility rebate program. So if people went into our local businesses that were, of course, struggling and spent money, that we would reduce their water bill for turning in those receipts. So go spend $50 at the barbecue place. You're supporting the barbecue place. Then we'll take $20 off of your water bill. So it was really good for our residents getting a reduced utility, and it was good for our businesses because we were incentivizing, patronizing them during a really, really tough time. So that was urban. It was great. I wish I had the stats in front of me. I should have gathered those real quick, but it saved thousands of dollars on water bills and provided thousands of revenue for our local restaurants. So that was fantastic.
That is, wow. That's excellent.
Yep. And we also developed Dayton Dollars, which was a voucher program. So residents who just opted in to, if they had been affected by COVID, affected by a disaster, needed a little bit of help. That's how we spent our recovery dollars. So we gave them directly to residents in the form of vouchers to be spent at our local businesses. And that was also very, very successful. Our businesses saw a significant uptick in their sales. Of course, it was at no cost to our residents. And we reimbursed those vouchers at 150%. So if somebody went in and bought that same $50 barbecue dinner and paid for it with those vouchers, it was free to the resident and cost the city, of course, the $75 that went to the businesses. So It was, and it didn't cost the city. It was our recovery, COVID recovery. So that also, I think, was really good. And our staff was able to stand up those programs very, very quickly. Our city manager and city recorder really poured into those and are really, really good. Even when we come up with, well, how about this wild idea? They are so amazing at coming up with a way to make it workable. And they really, I saw so many moments where our staff was actually really able to shine.
Wow.
And really able to stand out. Again, with the ice storms, power outages, the CEO for PGE had called Ms. Pope and talked to me and said that, the crews were loving being in Dayton because when they were in Dayton, they were getting fed. And I packed up snack crates and went around looking for crews. Staff fed all of the crews that were in the area one day, a big lunch. And as we shared those stories, lots of other residents started doing the same, taking hot coffee, taking a pack of Gatorade and going out looking for those folks to help them out.
Wow.
And so I think through all of that, you really see some of the, what the community is really about.
It's small cities. I mean, you love the community coming together like that. Those stories, I mean, it's a little, those are great stories. So, and they sound like they were effective and really strengthened the community even more so than it was before. So now we're kind of, we're in early spring of 2020, 2021. Where's the city of Dayton now? How's your business community? I know a lot of communities are clamoring. They want to be open. There's been some conflicting information. Things change on a dime. It makes it very hard for businesses to be nimble in that way. How are Dayton businesses doing?
I think they're struggling. A lot of our businesses have really had a hard time. I think the city has fortunately built some pretty good, respectful relationships with our businesses. They know that we're fighting for them in terms of getting these recovery dollars to them, building programs to help support them. And, pursuing economic development opportunities that will be to their benefit. They know that. I think that's made it an easier decision to remain compliant while others have been less so. Because they know that we are advocating for their interests and trying to get them to get through this really tough time. I think that they're excited to get closer to normal. I think that they're hoping for higher occupancy. I know there's a lot of questions about what summer's going to look like, whether or not we're going to have wine tasting tourism and visitors. We usually have a really significant summer event series called Dayton Friday Nights that last year was canceled. And instead we ended up planning again very quickly at the really bizarre suggestion. My staff didn't cower. They said, we can do that. We can make it happen. So we booked like 8 bands and put them on 8 floats and drove in this really complicated parade map so that we called it Bands on the Run.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
And so the bands were all over town playing in different neighborhoods, and each neighborhood got to see each band. And we had blues singers, and we had Latinx musicians, and we had pop, and we had country, and all these different genres. And they paraded through town playing music and sharing. And it was really, really fantastic. We paired it with what we called the Don't Stand So Close to Me community dinner. And so our fire department went out in their trucks and delivered meals from all of our downtown businesses that all agreed to offer a $10 special. And so everybody in town who wanted to purchase one of those had their meal delivered by fire truck during the concert. So it was still a community dinner. Everybody was at, hundreds of people came outside to have their meals, even those who prepared their own, to watch the music and to really kind of engage with their community, even when we had to remain distant.
Yeah.
And again, I think that things like that really told our business community we were trying, and it really helped them. It also, the fire department has an annual chicken barbecue, which was what we were trying to replace in terms of the revenue with the Don't Stand So Close to Me dinner. And it ended up out fundraising their typical by about a year, mostly through donations of people saying, thank you for pulling something off and giving them an extra $10, $20, $50. So it ended up being their most successful fundraiser in more than a decade.
Wow.
Even though it was, roughly planned and rushed and
off the wall and just completely unique and creative. I just love it.
Yeah, I have the fire. When I went to speak to the fire chief about the idea, he said, I don't understand. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to make the meals? And I said, no. I'm going to work with all their businesses and ask them to prepare this special. They're going to make it. They're going to pack it. Then they're just going to give it to you with an address and you're going to go deliver. And he was like, I don't know about that. And he wasn't real sure. And afterward, he was like, I can't believe it. And it was great for everybody.
That is so wonderful. That's just so wonderful. I love hearing that. And again, really creative and being creative and taking kind of what could be a bad situation and literally turning it around into something new and unique and ultimately successful.
And this year we've already been when's Band on the Run? Are we doing that again? Yeah. Can we do the Band on the Run? And I don't know if we'll end up doing Band on the Run, but for Easter, we are doing Bunny on the Run. And my amazing city manager, who apparently is very convincing, did rent a bunny suit and convinced me to wear it. And so I'll be on a trailer for about 8 hours going through every single street and bringing candy and eggs and treats to all the kids in town right in their own front yards.
Well, here's to some cool weather for you, because you don't want to be in like 70 or 80 degree weather in a rabbit suit.
I know. I'm we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping I'm not really wet, and I'm hoping I'm not really hot.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm really so happy and heartened to hear of the amazing things that you have been doing in the city of Dayton. And I hope it inspires others. And I know there are many, many other stories to tell out there in our smaller cities. And I'm looking forward to speaking to other mayors. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Mayor Wytoski, about Dayton and again about the LOC OMA Joint Spring Symposium that's coming up. Thanks for sharing all that information with our listeners. At that point, I'm gonna put in show notes how they can go sign up for that. But any last final comments just about the year in general, the symposium, anything you want to impart before we sign off?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a great opportunity to get to share some of the successes and struggles and new programs my city's been able to stand up. But there are so many stories like that. And this symposium is going to be a really good opportunity to hear some of the incredible recovery stories from the city of Detroit, some of the incredible recovery stories from the city of Pendleton. We have lots of speakers who are really going to be able to share, some of the high notes too, that even in these really, really tough and tumultuous and challenging times, some of the beauty, some of the recovery, some of these heroic or survival stories. And so if for nothing else, attending the symposium will give a really good opportunity to hear some amazing stories from those mayors who've been really out in the trenches and gone through a lot in the last year.
Yeah. Outstanding. Absolutely. I just think this is going to be such a good event for all the reasons that you just listed. So once again, my guest has been Dayton Mayor and OMA President Beth Wytoski. Beth, thank you so much. I know you got a busy day, so I appreciate you carving out some time for us to talk about these issues.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of City Focus. Check out show notes for links to register for the Spring Symposium and to see the full agenda. Remember, we publish fresh episodes every 2 weeks, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.